Okay, so in this part of the video we're going to be cleaning the rifle, and what I've got here is a WD-40, which is your all-purpose rust remover. You can use this if you'd like. I usually do. It takes off a lot of the cosmoline grease and other dirt that may have acquired on the metal parts of the rifle. And after that you can wipe the WD-40 down and actually start cleaning with the gun oil. Alright, so we've got all of the metal pieces sprayed down with WD-40. We've wiped all the grease and dirt off that we can. We're going to start actually cleaning it with the gun oil. I did want to point out one thing on this receiver. We'll zoom in here, see if my camera can focus. Right there it says Mod 98, which we already know it's a 98K. But there are no holes below. I'll use the firing pin to show you what I'm talking about. Right here on the receiver, if there were two holes down here, that would mean that it was a sniper version of the Mauser, which is pretty hard to come by. I've never seen one online or anywhere in the stores for that matter. So that basically proves that this is an infantry model of the Mauser, which are the more common of the two. So now we're going to go ahead and clean all the rest of the parts with the gun oil. Alright, so I've got the wood portion of the weapon now, the wood stock and the upper hand guard. I'm going to start by using a little bit coarser steel wool. This is I think it's a 0 or 00 strength or coarseness to it. I'm going to start by using that on the wood. I'm basically going to soften the wood up, which means I'm going to take some of the or begin to take the old coat and stain off, and depending on what I find with the steel wool, I will move up to either a 400 or an 800 grit sandpaper, depending on how much of this old stain is left and how much this old coat, whatever they may have used for a clear lacquer, is left. Finished most of the sanding on the wood stock and the upper handguard. As you can see, the upper handguard's color is starting to fade a little bit, and it's starting to become a little bit closer to that of the actual wood stock itself. I started with the coarse steel wool, and I noticed pretty quick the old lacquer coat and stain finish on this rifle stock was actually pretty well intact. So I stepped it up to a 220 grit sandpaper, which took off most of the lacquer finish and some of the stain. And then I went to a 400 and then the 800 grit sandpaper, and pretty much have the stock the way I want it. I'm going to run a 2000 grit and then the 000 steel wool to finish, just for that final touch. Alright, so I finished up with all the sanding. I used a 2000 grit sandpaper, and then I followed up with the 000 steel wool. And I've got a nice consistent texture now on the wood. And it's a little bit, just a tad rough, and that's okay because I'm going to be restaining it. And it needs a little bit of a grip on the wood, so to speak, for the stain to really adhere in the right way. We will run one final steel wool on the wood stock after the stain is all complete with the lacquer coating. Now at this point you could stop and actually just re-lacquer the weapon the way it is, or with the wood stock the way it is. This color is kind of the natural wood color with just a little essence of that old stain left on it. And this is actually a pretty common surplus rifle stock color, and it looks real nice the way it is just now. You can tell this last hit with the steel wool actually really kind of brought out some more of that natural color with this upper handguard as well, and it's getting closer and closer to matching that wood stock. But I'm going to go ahead and continue and actually finish with the stain as originally planned. So that'll be the next step. First, before you continue, either way, you want to take your microfiber cloth, get it wet, and run that up and down all the wood, and get all the any kind of dirt or dust particle that may be on there, get it all cleaned up. And basically you're prepping for the actual wood staining now. So I've verified the color I'm going to use is the Red Oak 215 by Minwax, and I'm going to go ahead and start by applying just kind of a gentle coat. And this is again, this is all preference stuff. You don't have to apply it all at once. They recommend, if you want a rich dark color, to apply a second coat after 4 to 6 hours. Got our old t-shirt here. I'm just going to test a little bit of this color out on the butt of this gun, which it's actually the lightest part of the gun, so it'll be the most susceptible to the stain itself. Always apply with the direction of the wood grain, and kind of just don't try to get it too out of control with the actual consistency or thickness of the lacquer coat that you apply. I'm sorry, lacquer coat, stain that you apply. Just kind of spread it out, just however you want to look, and don't worry about the metal. We can always touch up the metal later. And that looks really, really nice. Actually, that's going to apply just perfectly like that. In fact, I may not even do another coat, because this is coming out to be actually, it looks a lot more reddish than the Mauser 10 butt came out to be, which is actually the goal I was going, the direction I was going in with this weapon anyway. And just go ahead and kind of apply it as you see fit. And this first coat will sit for about 4 hours, and we'll come back to it after that. Just finished up with the first coat of the wood finish, and it looks really good the way it is, just like that. We're going to let it... Alright, so I just finished up with the first coat of the wood finish, and it looks pretty good. We're gonna let it sit for about 4 to 6 hours. We're having pretty cold weather here. It's winter. It's like 35 degrees outside, so it'll probably take a little bit longer than that to actually fully cure. We may apply a second coat and then the actual lacquer finish. But you can see what a difference this has made already on that wood stock, and it's really looking good.